everyone to day two. Today we're going to focus on what the role of the athletic trainer looks like in the occupational setting. So many of us on the WorkFit leadership team have some outside experience outside of the industrial setting, outside of this occupational setting, and have worked with a number of different athletes, both traditional and different emerging opportunities. So, I kind of want to kick it off and just see what your personal experience has been, either when you've transitioned into occupational setting or maybe with some of our team members that you've worked closely with when they've come in.
Well, I can start this off, Katie. I think my experience was unique in terms of transitioning in here. I came out of graduate school as an athletic trainer and was looking for that best fit job for myself. And I stumbled upon, WorkFit, and I didn't have a lot of had a few little small opportunities with in a traditional setting, a clinic setting. But I immediately jumped kind of in the industrial setting, and I thought, hey, come up with, I worked in manual labor myself growing up, and with my dad and everything. And so, I thought this would be cool. And the unique experience was, oh man, I was caught like a deer in the headlights. I mean, I came in and looked at people so differently, and, I had all this knowledge, and I thought, man, I didn't really know what I'm talking about. And the first patient I had to deal with as an industrial worker just threw me for a loop, and I just couldn't articulate. I couldn't speak. I couldn't, understand what they were asking me to do. And I was doing stuff that I've done 1,000 times. So it was very crippling. And I'm painting a negative picture here, but I'll turn this around. But I think it's normal to come into this setting and see things as unique, different. And then it finally kind of switched after a couple weeks in my head that, hey, these are people with, bones, joints, ligaments, muscles. They do some similar movements. They may do them a lot more or very repetitively, or they may do them for longer periods of time. But they were really not behaving no differently than athletes. And once I got myself out of that mode of they're different, like these are different people, it really became take care of the person. What's their issue? Ask them questions, engage in conversation, and learn about them and learn about what they do. And it just really did a complete 180 and opened up my eyes tremendously and just got rid of those barriers and just started to relate with people. Went back to my background of working difficult jobs and manual labor and just again, I was able to form connections and talk to people and not really focus on what was so different, but focus on the similarities. And it just really has paved my path. And I've been in this setting ever since and won't go back. So the strength built upon that was unique, but it may be different at first, but as long as you're focused and you're curious and you want to learn and you take interest in people, you'll do a great job.
Yeah, I had to actually slow myself down and just sort of slow my thought process and relationship building process down, because coming out of high school, D1, D2, even club sports and some elite sports, as the athletic trainer, you're thinking the buck stops here, right? Everything is on my shoulders. I'm the end game. And you suddenly discover that there are so many more layers of accountability and relationship build in the site that you're dealing with management on different levels and workers on different levels. And most of them, especially when I started, nobody had any clue what an athletic trainer was. So you have to completely start at baseline of them even understanding who you are and trusting your area of expertise. So that's a complete mental flip-flop when you start in the field. And then I would say, though, on the flip side, the beauty of it, though, was that you have an independence to work and to use your full skill set, like perhaps you haven't been able to experience in other places and other sites. And so that just helps you kind of just spread your wings and grow and build that comfort zone as you're figuring out how to navigate this space where people really don't know who you are or what you really do.
My entry point into this occupational world was, I don't want to say it was smooth, but it was very intentional. When I was going through school, I had made a decision that I only wanted to work in the occupational setting. So, I dabbled a little bit in the high school setting, per diem, but my whole career has been in this setting. And my first job was at a prison with WorkFit. And that was a pretty easy transition to make because it operated sort of like a clinic. It had a big conditioning component. So it was really in the wheelhouse of the athletic trainer. I, of course, didn't know very much as a young athletic trainer, but I knew enough to really help those folks. But the next step in my career, when I went to automotive manufacturing, that's where the real transition took place for sure. That's where the game changed a lot, being thrown into a completely different environment there. And what I quickly fell in love with was just the creative thinking aspect of being in that environment is working, trying to figure out why a shoulder's getting hurt, while stuffing a piston into an engine and working with engineers and manufacturing folks and learning all of that lingo there and realizing that, wow, as a musculoskeletal expert, they relied on me as an athletic trainer to be able to help problem solve something for their business. And that's what really got me excited about this occupational setting, is that the critical thinking aspect of it.
What is it that you guys look for when we're bringing in new team members for WorkFit and we know they don't have a background in it? What's something that you really highlight in people's personalities and maybe their skill sets that you just get that feeling this person's going to be able to get it and this is going to make them strong in this setting?
Yeah, for me, I'll say that I get that question all the time in interviews of, what are you looking for? What can I do? What can I work on? And then also questions about like training. And I always tell people, WorkFit, we hire like 90% of our people who have no experience in the occupational setting. Very seldom do we come across somebody who has experience. Sometimes they have experience in another non-traditional setting, like working with professional dancers or at Cirque du Soleil down in Las Vegas. That's on occasion. For the most part, all of our recruits or all of our new employees are coming from either straight from school and they've learned about us and they want, kind of like Mike, they know what they want and they want to jump into the occupational setting. Or they've come from a more traditional route, high schools, colleges. We have some D1 or former D1 athletic trainers amongst us. And it's refreshing when I tell people that we understand that you don't have experience coming in. And we've kind of tailored our training and our onboarding to help set you up for success. And for me, it's a lot about the personality. It's a lot about the drive and the organization that you have as an athletic trainer. And then also knowing your personal philosophy and why you want to help people. And from there, I can really, pull out during onboarding and training how you want to do this and then how it can actually be seen and put together, pieced together in the work that we do. And another big thing is just kind of an awareness and a passion for prevention. A lot of what we do is foresee a risk or see how this is going to hurt somebody. It might not hurt them right now, but how could it hurt them if they do it 722 times today? And then again, for the rest of the week, for the rest of the month. So how can we take our knowledge of physiology and biomechanics and foresee the future to then help our clients and our customers make some changes to then prevent, the downfall of the shoulder or prevent chronic back pain and things like that, that really speaks to helping the individual person one at a time, but kind of in a future sense.
Yeah. And I would add to that, the some characteristics I look for is, if we're going to be very preventative, you guys talked about, really what boils down to education and teaching people new ways of doing things or coming across, coaching on different behaviors, work practices, and so forth. So people that are coming into this setting need to be educators. You need to be willing to want to teach people how to better take care of themselves. And then what comes with that is also being learners. You're not expected to come into this environment and have all the answers. I don't even think as a healthcare provider, we have all the answers. It constantly changes. We got to be willing to continuously learn. You need to be willing to have that curiosity to go out there and learn from your employee without the fear of trying to have an answer for them right away. You need to converse and collaborate with that employee because you have access with them. Go see what they're doing. Go see how they're doing it, how many times they're doing it, and get a feel for what's really going on. And that way we can learn. They learn from us. We learn from them. But then we can easily teach each other how to make things better. And sometimes it comes with great intention, and we come up with great ideas. Sometimes we just come across stuff on a whim and trial and error, and we just tried everything. So having a mentality of wanting to teach others and also be lifelong learners is very important for this environment.
Yeah, Andy, you use one of my key. Go ahead.
No, I was going to say, what would you say to those new athletic trainers coming into the business? I mean, if they're in their junior and senior year or in their fourth or fifth year, what would you say to them to, help them get into this in this environment?
Sure. I would tell them practice using their eye. Like, one of the things I do look for is a good eye. Somebody, you don't have to know everything about biomechanics and ergonomics. And hopefully you've had some good classes and coursework in that, but even as you're on the athletic field, practice looking at how people move and how you would change their efficiency. One of the things I look for when I'm talking with people and when I'm bringing them on site is that they can kind of erase. I always tell them, erase the background mentally, right? Movement is movement. And if you can make that connection, you'll be okay. Right? You might be a little bit stressed and you might feel like and I always tell people you've got to be comfortable with being uncomfortable, right? Because you're learning a whole lot of things. But if you can mentally erase that background and go, okay, I see that wrist angle, or I see, oh, that's a squat, or okay, that looks like a blocker stance, and you can make those connections. It also makes you a better teacher too, to Andy's point about being educators. You can then create those common analogies that people can understand, that you take outside of their realm of the fact that they're stuffing a piston into an engine or they're assembling a roof or whatever the deal is. You can build those analogies just in common ground, right? Hey, did you watch the game? Well, let me tell you about that movement. And it's kind of like what you're doing here. And so if you can do that and you can develop your good eye now, that will pay dividends.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Watching people walk in an airport, or a grocery clerk squatting down to stock a shelf down low or reaching up high. I love being able to just, kind of analyze people's movements. And that's a great point, is practice where you're at now. Don't be weird about it, but watch your neighbor do some yard work and see what happens. And see what you can, figure out and pick out from a biomechanics standpoint of how that body part or how that could lead to injury, in the future if they just continue to do that. So that's a great point, Kimber.
Candace, to your point about watching the neighbor and not being weird about it, go give them an offer of help too, right? If you see something, you'll get practice at being an educator.
All right, so let's go ahead and we're going to turn it over to our experts on the floor with our employees day in and day out, and they're going to tell you a little bit about what their experience has been transitioning in and some tips and tricks that they might have to give you some support if you're looking into the occupational setting.
Predictable yet unpredictable, adaptable and flexible. You never know what's going to walk through the door.
Well, a day in the life in the industrial setting as an ATC, you really have to wear a lot of hats. So our day starts off with us kind of making sure that we are getting out on the work floor, making sure that we're touching base with the employees at our work site, and making sure that they know that we're here to help them.
It really kind of varies between employee care, first aid level care, proactive services, and then administrative duties. For the most part, most of my employee care classes that we run, client meetings, group educations, those things are kind of structured throughout the day.
Not at all what I expected. Like, I'm a recent college grad. I definitely anticipated I'd be going into a traditional setting. Like, I was almost certain I'd be working at a high school right now. But I would say I couldn't be happier to be where I am now, because it's like the work-life balance is incredible. it's really cool to like have all these various like the tasks that vary from day to day, but there is a whole lot of consistency with my schedule.
For sure, ergonomic analysis.
Technical or practical skills of knowing about tools or even just a workplace environment in manufacturing. I think that was the biggest change in starting to work with industrial employees. Was I might have, a great knowledge of body mechanics and of, concepts of the human body and human performance, but if I looked at your work site, I might not be able to give a great suggestion, especially with like tooling or, ergonomic changes, just because I didn't have that background.
Understanding how the way someone's workplace is set up and how to basically make that better for them to prevent them from having injuries at the workplace.
I never realized how much business went into what was part of healthcare, and being able to develop the business mindedness as it goes into forming a bond, forming relationships, setting goals, creating outcomes, and statistically looking at your outcomes, I think has been sort of a rude awakening of what needs to be in not just industrial athletic training, but also athletic training as a whole, finding that value in our services.
Definitely wish I had more of a mindset for marketing and metrics, just going through an Excel file, being able to present metrics to managers, and also being able to market yourself, being able to brand yourself.
A lot of what we do with athletic training in any setting is the same. It's just my environment or my field looks different. My athlete looks maybe a little different, but we still call them athletes in our realm because what they're doing still applies that way.